What's going on, everybody? It is Empire Vulcan. I am back from the Orlando Regional, so I wanted to give you guys an update, how I did, what I learned, and for the future, how I will prepare for a big tournament like this. Before we get started, shout out to the shop that I play at, the Wokey Pokey in St. Augustine, Florida. If you are in the St. Augustine, Jacksonville, or surrounding areas and you are passing through and looking for a cool shop to stop at, make sure you stop at the Wokey Pokey. Great management, great players, great people, overall great experience there. You will not be disappointed by stopping by the shop. Also, on the back of my jersey, make sure to always represent who I am and what I am about. Empire Vulcan. Shout out to me for doing this thing. So yeah, let's go through the weekend and give you guys a rundown of what happened. So pictured here, this is the deck list that I ran. It's not way different, but it is different than the video I had posted, which was my final draft. I had changed a few things last minute after doing some thinking. So let me go through some of those changes and then we'll go on with what I learned from the event. So everything is still standard with most of the Gardevoir line. 3 Rolts, 3 Kirlia, 2 Gardevoir, 1 Screamtail, 1 Drifloon, 1 Gallade, 1 Fluttermane, and 1 Mimikyu. Now the addition that I added to the Psychic pile was Mew EX. The idea behind playing Mew is that it is a free retreat and it has genome hacking. So if there's anything that I can genome hack, I can play the Mew, accelerate energy with Gardevoir to it, and take out whatever the threat is on board. Unfortunately, I did not use Mew at all during the weekend, and I probably could have cut it for something else, but Mew is still very much a viable piece that you could add to the list. I just don't know if I'll play it with this. Still playing my 2 Raging Bolts, still playing Greninja, Manaphy, and Jirachi. Those actually did come in clutch. I played a Chi and Pal deck. Manaphy came in clutch. Did not play any Lost Box, so Jirachi, I mean, of course, hindsight 2020, Jirachi could have been cut for something else, but we get the idea that Lost Box is still a thing, so we kept it. Another thing that you'll notice is that I've switched my ideology from consistency, just from a draw standpoint, to now being we need to focus on getting Kirlia and Gardevoir on board as quickly as possible. So I upped the Arven count to 3. I added 2 TM evolutions, and I wanted to make sure that I could get a Kirlia or even a Gardevoir online as soon as humanly possible. And through the weekend, it worked. I mean, Arven came in clutch so many times. I always pick going second because I wanted to have the Arven access. Almost every game I had Arven available. Arven, TM evolution with Earthen Vessel, get myself 2 Psychic Energy, hopefully have a Greninja for extra draw, attach, TM evolution, Rolts, boom boom. Buddy Poffins were easily accessible in my hand. I never had an issue getting Buddy Poffin, so we were in an amazing spot as far as getting the Kirlias and Gardevoirs on board. That was nice. I also added 1 copy of Research. Research actually helped out a couple games, being able to ditch unneeded cards in hand and drawing a fresh 7. I don't know if I'll keep it in later lists, but as far as my thinking for the weekend, it came in pretty clutch. Outside of that, everything else is pretty standard. I did add a copy of Luxurious Cape because I did add in the Drifloon last minute. I wanted to be able to do big damage, and it came in clutch one game. I actually took out my opponent's Gardevoir with my Drifloon, so it worked out. I don't know if in the future, at least for this variant of Gardevoir with Raging Bolt, if I'll keep the Drifloon in, but for the weekend, it did okay. So this is my list. It worked pretty well. There are a few things that I would change. I may up the Rolts Kirlia count to 4-4. There was one game when I had prized 2 Kirlia. I had prized 2 Kirlia and my opponent bossed in my other Kirlia that was in my active. That was an automatic game lost. We just went to game 2 after that. That was a terrible situation. 2 Kirlia prized. Not fun. That was not fun. I probably would also add in Lost Vacuum. It was probably a stupid thing not to add Lost Vacuum, but Lost Vacuum was definitely a necessary. Getting rid of stadiums, getting rid of tools. Yeah, we need Vacuum for this format. Luckily, I wasn't put in a position where any of those things hindered my game, but hindsight 2020, if I would have kept winning, I would run into those decks that do have those type of things that you need to get rid of. So I need to be able to get rid of those. So at least 1 copy, maybe even 2 of Lost Vacuum would be something I would add in the future. I also may up the count of Sada. Fortunately, there wasn't an issue where Raging Bolt couldn't get what he needed when he was on board. I normally wouldn't play Raging Bolt unless I knew that I could get something started, just because the Gardevoir setup was so much more important, and I didn't want to give my opponent a way to take something out, a 2-prizer out, you know what I'm saying? So I did not play Bolt if it was not something I can guarantee, you know, energy attached Sada, do what you need to do. But yeah, that's the deck list. Let me go through some of my matchups, and then we'll talk about some of the lessons that I learned from this tournament, and so on and so forth. So let me switch over to that. So this is my matchups. As you can see, I dropped game 7. I just got too tired, so I dropped game 7, but these are my matchups. Round 1 was against Goldingo. We took the tie. This guy ended up doing very well in the tournament, 9-2-4. So shout out to Thomas, man. Shout out to you. Shout out to the Goldingo. Did very well in the tournament. Round 2 was the Gardevoir mirror match. We tied there as well, but a lot of these ties, so without going through anymore, some of these ties, if we had a little more time, I could have pulled something out. And we'll get to the lessons in a little bit, but if I had just a little bit more time, we probably could have pulled out a win. Round 3 was against Lugia. We went into time this match, and my opponent had already taken 3 prize cards, was going to take a 4th one during his turn. So I gave him the win because my board was so minuscule that there's no way I would take a prize card. And he was already, you know, at 3, so I just gave him the win because if we would have kept playing, he would have won. Absolutely. Just from what my board and discard looked like, yeah, he would have won. So I gave him the win. Round 4 was against Charizard. We tied there as well. We went into time. Nobody had taken prize cards. Our boards both didn't look like anything where we could take multiple prize cards, so we just ended up tying there. Round 5 was another Gardevoir matchup. She just didn't draw good hands. She has a good deck, but just didn't draw optimal hands game 1 and 2, and I was off to the races. So took the win there. That's my first win, which was great. Round 6 was against Chien-Pao. This was a really good game. It came down to game 3. Game 1, he had bricked super hard. Couldn't do much of anything. Game 2, it was back and forth, but he had taken the dub. And then game 3, he just drew the nuts, went crazy, and I couldn't do anything. So lost there. And then round 7, I dropped. I just gave my opponent the win because, look, I'm tired and I'm ready to go home. And that leads us to my first lesson learned. Players do not talk about the stamina necessary to play a big tournament like this. Now, I'm not talking about stamina like running a race. I'm talking about the mental stamina to keep yourself motivated and in the game. after loss, after ties, even after a win, putting yourself in the state of mind every round to play your deck at an optimal level. They also don't talk about the physical nature of it, where you need energy. You need to be hydrated. You need to be not full, but ate food to give yourself energy. So they don't talk about that piece of the pie where you have to keep yourself at your optimal form. So my first lesson, next big tournament, I'm bringing a bunch of snacks. I'm bringing Gatorade, Powerade, and water, and getting a good night's sleep beforehand. I didn't get any sleep Saturday, not because I was playtesting, but because I had to travel about an hour and a half to get to my girlfriend's place. She's about an hour from the venue, so I had to get up around 3 a.m. so I can get there early enough for check-in, because I wasn't sure when they were going to check people in, and I didn't want to be late because there were so many people at the event. I didn't want to have to miss anything from missing check-in. So I got to the venue at about 4:30, almost 5, and just kind of chilled out in the parking lot until I noticed people walking inside. So I didn't get much sleep, probably about an hour and a half, if any. So I got to her place at 1 a.m. She got home from hanging out with her friends around 3 a.m. and I stayed up since then. So yeah, only had about an hour and a half of sleep. So the second lesson that I learned was time management. Obviously, this is something that makes total sense, so you can clown me in the comments, it's fine. But playing PTCGL versus playing in real life is two totally different things. In PTCGL, if you need more time, you can just play a nest ball, fail it, and it reset the timer, so you have a little bit more time. In a real tournament, you can't sit around and think about your plays. You have to pretty much know what you're going to do and make decisions rather quickly. And those few seconds, those few minutes that you take thinking, that is time running off the clock. And a lot of my games went to game 3 going into time because of indecisive plays. I'm not going to say it's all my fault, right? So I'm not stalling for time, but I will say that those little bits of thinking do add up. So definitely in the future, if I'm going to play a deck, play it a lot in real life. Already know what you're going to do play wise. Know a good have a good knowledge of the meta, so you know what plays to do against certain decks, so you don't have to think too much. So lesson number 2, be prepared with your plays before your turn. And let me go back to an earlier thing I talked about, which was bringing snacks to the event. Another thing not talked about, and this has nothing to do with Pokemon. The venue, those prices for food and drinks were ridiculous. Yo, for a small thing of chicken tenders and fries, no honey mustard by the way, $13.25. The vending machine for a Gatorade, $5. I'm like, oh, I'm at Disney World. I forgot, I'm in Orlando. I'm at Disney World. Every venue is going to be set up like Disney. They're going to overcharge you just because they can. I ended up paying the $13.25 because I didn't have any snacks. I thought they would have food there. Well, they did, but I thought they would have like catered food, like, oh, all our players will give you guys lunch. No, obviously not. So yeah, that was ridiculous. The food was edible. It was okay, but it wasn't $13.25 worth. So yeah, I'm definitely bringing my own snacks and drinks next time. $5 for Gatorade? That's crazy. But anyway, lesson number 3 is do this more often. Do this more often. I had so much fun at this tournament, and it wasn't even because of the competition. I met so many cool people at this event. Just people just willing to have a conversation with you. We talked about life. We talked about our YouTube channels. We talked about the game itself. We even got into some other card games. We talked about where we're from, what we do. I met somebody who was a chemist. I met somebody who's in school to be an astrophysicist. I met people that were working for some big companies. I work for the railroad. So it's just, I met so many cool people at the event that I need to do this more often. Be around the people. Playing online is nice, but playing in person and meeting people it's a great event. You'll see so many different types of personalities, so many different types of people. It really shows you just how wonderful this world is. If you take away all the BS that you see and you just see the people for who they are and what they're about, man, there's so much beauty in this world that it's nice to have an event like this that brings everybody together. So lesson number 3, do this way more often. I'm excited. But yeah, so that was the weekend. Like I said, I dropped around 7. I did not go to day 2. I had some errands I needed to run on Sunday, and had some things I needed to finish up for work and side business things. So I did not go back, but I had a lot of fun. This deck can win. I think if it's tuned up just a little bit, and I focused a lot more on making decisive plays and not wasting time, I feel like this deck would have been in the conversation in that top list of decks. Maybe not winning, maybe not even top 50, but definitely in the top 100 worth of decks played. It felt good. I just needed more time. There were certain, you know what I'm saying? So this deck can be something valuable. I look forward to updating it just a little bit more and taking it to a few more smaller tournaments, and then hopefully having another regional experience. But yeah, I enjoyed myself this weekend. If I ran into you and you subscribed to my channel, I appreciate it. If I didn't run into you, hopefully next time you know this face, you know who I am. This channel blows up enough to where you guys want to approach me and have a good conversation. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, and shout out to all the players that were there. So until next time, this is Empire Vulcan, and I am out. Peace.